I have been a Fleet-Marshal of the Doureth Ascendancy for 31 years, and in that time I have buried more ships than I have launched. I say this not as a complaint. It is the nature of the cascade doctrine, the Ascendancy's foundational military philosophy, the architecture of every engagement we have ever prosecuted. That volume absorbs cost. You send enough hulls, and the math resolves in your favor. A single adversary, however capable, cannot fire in 220 directions at once. The cascade is not elegant. It is not meant to be. It is meant to win, and for 3 centuries it has done exactly that. I had no reason to expect otherwise when the engagement order arrived. The target was designated Human Warship Iron Catechism, hull classification unknown, length estimated at 1,300 meters, freshly commissioned by whatever authority governs human fleet doctrine. Our intelligence assessment was thorough and, I believed at the time, accurate. 0 prior engagements, 0 confirmed weapons discharges in any logged theater, no combat record of any kind, not a single action, not a skirmish, not so much as a live fire test logged in any archive we could access. The Iron Catechism had been built, fitted out, crewed, and sent to the sector Careth Null approach lane on what appeared to be a standard patrol assignment, and in all of that it had not once been required to demonstrate what it could do. My signals officer, Veth San, looked up from her console and asked me whether we should log it as a training exercise. I told her to flag it as a minor engagement. I was being generous. 220 warships is not a force you bring to a training exercise. It is a force you bring to make a point about the permanence of outcomes. The Doureth Ascendancy has never believed in sending enough. We believe in sending so many that the concept of resistance becomes mathematically incoherent. I positioned the array in the standard cascade formation, 80 vessels forward in a convex spread, 72 on each flanking arc, 16 held at depth as a fire direction reserve. The Iron Catechism sat at the center of our envelope. It was, by every measure in my possession, surrounded. It had made no move. I noted this and did not find it alarming. Ships with no combat record do not necessarily know how to respond to encirclement. The human vessel held its position with what appeared, on our scanners, to be a kind of absolute stillness. Engines reading at low cruise, weapon ports unlit, no communications traffic of any kind. My tactical assessor, Doureth Vaughn, submitted a confidence projection. 93% probability of resolution within 8 minutes, assuming standard target behavior. The remaining 7% accounted for equipment malfunction on our own side. There was no projection that included the Iron Catechism as a variable. I gave the cascade initiation order at 17 minutes past the sector clock. 220 ships confirmed ready. The forward spread began its closing run. What happened in the next 4 minutes I have reconstructed from what sensor data remained recoverable. I will set it down as plainly as I am able, because plain language is all I have left, and because I want whoever receives this transmission to understand that I am not describing an ambush, or a trap, or a concealed reinforcement. There was no ambush. There were no reinforcements. The Iron Catechism fought alone, and it fought in a manner that our cascade doctrine had no language for. It began with the weapon ports. They did not light up the way our intelligence models predicted weapon ports would light up. In every engagement the Ascendancy has ever analyzed, human or otherwise, weapon systems require a detectable charge cycle, a thermal bloom, a preparatory arc that gives a trained eye perhaps 2 to 3 seconds of warning. The Iron Catechism's ports did not bloom. They simply opened, and whatever passed through them moved faster than our forward sensors could resolve into a coherent trajectory. The first 18 ships of the forward spread ceased transmitting in the same 2-second window. Not damaged, ceased. The cascade formation registered the loss, compensated automatically, began closing the spread inward per doctrine. Then the flanks answered. I had positioned 72 warships on each arc specifically to prevent this kind of focused attrition. The doctrine assumes that no single vessel can simultaneously suppress a forward contact and 2 flanking pressures at the same time. It is not an assumption. It is the result of 3 centuries of engagement data. The Iron Catechism did not suppress the flanks. It addressed them in sequence, and the sequence took 11 seconds per arc. I watched my left flank lose 64 ships in 11 seconds, and I remember the thought arriving, very clearly and very quietly, that the confidence projection had been wrong. Not wrong about the time. Wrong about which side the resolution favored. I ordered the reserve to close at maximum acceleration. 16 ships, my best-equipped hulls, committed to a direct bow-on run. The Iron Catechism had, by then, eliminated 144 vessels in the opening 4 minutes of engagement. The reserve run lasted 47 seconds. 12 ships were gone before they reached engagement range. The remaining 4 fired their full broadside at a range of 900 meters. The Iron Catechism's hull took the strike. The sensor reading that came back, the one my tactical assessor spent 3 seconds staring at before she said anything, showed a hull that had absorbed 4 broadside volleys from the Ascendancy's most capable reserve warships and returned to its baseline thermal signature within 2 minutes. Not intact despite the impact. Intact because of something in its construction that our archive did not contain a category for. I have been in this chair for 31 years. I know what a dying ship looks like on a sensor board. I know the signature of a hull under terminal stress, the way the thermal cascade begins at the damaged sections and spreads inward toward the reactor core. The Iron Catechism did not produce that signature. It produced nothing I recognized. By minute 14, I had 61 ships remaining. The Iron Catechism had resumed its original position, the one it had held before the engagement, the same coordinates, the same low cruise engine reading, as though it had briefly attended to something and was now waiting to see if there was anything further required. There was a silence on my bridge that I had never heard before. Not the silence of caution or tactical calculation, the silence of people who have understood something about the nature of what they are looking at and do not yet have words for what that understanding costs them. I did not order a retreat. I want that on the record. I ordered the 61 remaining ships to transmit their complete engagement logs to the nearest Ascendancy relay point and then to hold formation, because a Fleet-Marshal of the Doureth Ascendancy does not issue a retreat order when the cascade doctrine has not yet been formally exhausted. I gave the order for a second engagement attempt at the 14-minute mark. By minute 17, I was alone. Not alone on the bridge, alone in the sector. 219 ships of the Doureth Ascendancy's war array had been removed from the engagement record. The Iron Catechism had returned, a second time, to its original position. The same coordinates, the same stillness. It did not pursue the retreating data pods that carried our logs. It did not sweep the debris field for survivors. It simply held its position in the center of what had been our formation envelope, and it waited, and I do not know what it was waiting for. My flagship's reactor had 17 minutes of function remaining when I began this transmission. I am sending it on all Ascendancy emergency channels, and I am appending my full tactical log, because whoever receives this needs to understand the error that I made, and the error that our entire doctrine made, and the error is not about the Iron Catechism's weapons or its hull or its speed. Those are technical facts, and our engineers will extract them from the engagement data and eventually build a model that accounts for them. The error is simpler than that. The Doureth Ascendancy looked at a ship with no combat record and drew one conclusion from that absence. We concluded that a vessel which had never fired was a vessel that did not know how. We built our confidence projection on that foundation. We sent 220 ships to complete a training exercise. What the archive had no entry for, what 3 centuries of cascade doctrine had never been required to account for, was the possibility that a ship with no record of firing had simply never before been given a target worth the expenditure. The Iron Catechism is already gone. It left the sector at the 18-minute mark, heading rimward on a bearing my systems cannot resolve. It did not mark our debris field. It did not record us. In every way that the Ascendancy understands the word, it has already forgotten we were here. This transmission ends at the 17-minute reactor threshold. Whoever receives it, do not send a cascade. Do not send anything at all.